Assalamualaikum and hi all. So today in chapter 6 in staff supervision class we are going to discuss about staff motivation. So first of all we will discuss about what is the concept of motivation in workplace and why the motivation is important to the staff. And in this lesson also we will see what are the motivation theories that could be applied in organizations. And next, we will discuss about what is the incentive types and what are the supervisor roles to motivate the staff. What is motivation? So motivation is the word derived from the word motive, which means needs, desires, wants, or drive within the individuals. So it is the process of stimulate people to actions. So motivation in the workplace is defined as the willingness to exert high level of effort towards organizational goals. So based on this view about motivation concept, so what we can see in motivations in organization actually. So motivations can be seen as the process that initiates or guides and maintains the goal-oriented behaviors. So it is what causes you to act, whether it is a simple action or situations. All right. For example, when you need a glass of water or drink a glass of water to reduce your thirst, or maybe reading a book to gain knowledge. So this is the process of actions that motivate you to act, to get the water or to reading the book. So that is the actions that we call as a motivation to do something in order to gain something that you want. So motivations can involve the process of biological, emotional, social, and also cognitive forces that will activate the actions or the behavior. So in our everyday life, the term motivation is usually or frequently used to describe why a person does something. So it is referred to what will drive human actions or behavior. So motivations is usually referred to why people do the things that they do based on the observable behaviors. So in general, there are many different causes or different forces that will guide and direct the individual motivations. So there are two types that will drive the motivation of individual. So the first one is the intrinsic motivation, and the second one is extrinsic motivation. So let's look with the intrinsic motivation first. So what is intrinsic motivation? So intrinsic motivations are those that arise from within the individual, all right, such as doing a complicated puzzle that will satisfy yourself. So that is the inner motivation aspects. So intrinsic motivation is usually the behavior that is motivated by your internal desire to do something for your own sake, right? For example, your personal enjoyment of an activity or your desire to learn a skill because you are interested or you are keen to learn the skill. For example, maybe reading a book because you are enjoy the storytelling, and exercising or workout because you want to relieve stress. So that is the refer to the intrinsic motivation. It refers to your inner motivation process. What about extrinsic motivation? So in contrast, extrinsic motivations are those that arise from the outside of the individual and often involve the rewards such as money or certificates, gift, recognitions or prize and compliments. All right. So the extrinsic is usually referred to behavior or actions that is motivated by an external factor to do something in hopes to earn or to gain the reward. Or maybe also in some cases or some situations, the extrinsic motivation is when individuals are drive to gain reward or to avoid the punishment. Right, so it also can refer not only to the motivation that leads individual to gain reward, but maybe lead individual to avoid a punishment. So they are motivated to do the actions in order to avoid the punishment. What are the examples that we can see in extrinsic motivations? So let's say the reading a book. So while intrinsic motivation, all right, we're reading a book because we are enjoying the storytelling. And in contrast, in extrinsic motivations, reading a book, maybe we want to prepare for examinations. So in order to get a high scores or awards ourselves to get the scores. And maybe also we are doing the exercising or workout in order to lose weight. Either maybe we want to be more healthy, or maybe we want to gain a praise or a compliment from the others. So that is the intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. So these two types of motivation, that is intrinsic and extrinsic, could be applied and is also important in employee in workplace. So they can use their inner motivations or the external motivation factors to drive their works so that they can perform better in workplace. So why the motivation is important in workplace? First, it can help to put human resource to actions. Organization can ensure the employees make action towards their work, right? By put human resource into actions. All right, let's say if an employee is motivated, he or she will do his or her work in high enthusiasm. So these employees' actions is now seen as a conditions where human resource is put into action. And this motivation is also an important element in workplace, where it can improve the level of efficiencies of employees. So when we talk about improve the level of efficiency, it can lead also into conditions. Either it can improve the level of efficiency, and indirectly it will also help to improve the level of efficiencies of organizations. So how motivation can improve the level of efficiency of employees. So this is because the level of the subordinates or employee does not only depend on his qualifications and abilities. All right, people with his or her good qualifications or people that has high intelligence or high IQ will not perform better in work without motivation. So that is what we can see here, that the important aspect of motivation to improve the efficiency work among employees. And we can see also here that the motivation does not only improve the level of efficiency of employees, but it also can improve the level of efficiencies of organizations. How it will happen? So it is relates to the employees' motivations. Let's say if employees perform better in work when have good motivations, so indirectly it affects the organizational efficiency. So motivation plays an important role in changing the employees' attitudes and lead to employees and organizational efficiency at workplace. So that is why the motivation is important in workplace, because it's not only improve the efficiency of employees, but indirectly will improve the efficiency of organization as a whole. And the other important part in motivations, because it can lead to achievement of organizational goals. Goals can be achieved if motivation leads employees and organizations works well. Right? With motivations, the process of coordinations and cooperation can effectively be done, with which can lead to organizational achievement of the continuous growth. And the other important of motivation in workplace is it can help to build the friendly environment or friendly relationship at workplace. So by building a good relationship at workplace, either between workers or between workers or employees, can help to create the positive or friendly relationship at workplace. Motivation can create a positive impact towards relationship. So it will generate the positive stimulus in employees' mind, and when employees having a communications or cooperation with others in the workplace, so these positive behavior or actions can influence or cross over to the other employees. So this scenario shows how it will create a good relationship and create a good work environment. So that is how the motivation affects the relationship in workplace. And the other aspect that we can see in the motivation in workplace is it can lead to the stability of workforce, or maybe it can increase the productivity in organization. It is because when motivation meets the needs of the employee, so this situation will drive the employee to work at the best of his abilities. So the motivated employees will be willing to put in more effort towards the betterment of the organization. So motivation as a process that leads to the increases of productivity and thus will lead to the stability of the workforce in organization as well. So overall, what we can see from these 5 aspects of the crucial proportions in motivations, that is put human resource motivations, improve the level of efficiency, leads to achievement of organizational goals, create the good relationship in workplace, and leads to stability of the workforce or increase the productivity in workplace. So what we can see from this those important elements of motivation in workplace, we can see that the motivation is a process that requires an understanding of human mind and behavior, because the understanding and the proper action will stimulate employee to initiating and maintaining the action. Thus, without a motivated workplace, so organization could be placed in a risky position. Thus, motivated employees can lead to increase the productivity, efficiency, and improve relationship, and also will allow an organization to achieve higher level of outputs. Right? So as we discussed that the motivation is an important aspect in the workplace in order to create a good work environment among employees and organization in workplace. So there must be some of the theory or the guide that the manager or supervisor as a leader in workplace can be applied, so that the motivation workplace can be improved or achieved in organizations. There are actually many types of motivation theory, but these 5 types of motivation theory have been proved and widely used in organizations until nowadays. So first is the Maslow hierarchy of needs theory, and the second is the log goals theory setting, and the Skinner's reinforcement theory, Adams equity theory, and also Bloom's expectancy theory. So let's look out at the first Maslow hierarchy of needs theory. So Maslow hierarchy needs theory is actually have been proposed by Abraham Maslow. So Abraham Maslow is actually a father or a founder for the hierarchy needs model that has been also introduced in early 1943. But actually in the Maslow need hierarchy model, the first introduction of this theory or this model is only focused on the motivation aspect on individual. But through the time that this motivation model by Maslow has been integrated and has been also used in organizations. So basically, in Abraham Maslow model or Maslow needs hierarchy model, there are 5 important needs that need to be addressed and to be achieved by individuals and also by the employees in organizations. So the first one is the physiological needs. So that is the first basic needs that need to be achieved or need to be addressed by human or individual in life or either in organization itself. So this is the basic needs that including such as food, clothes, shelter, house, water, air. So this is usually related to the survival or the aspect that human need to maintain in their life. And the second is the safety needs. So the safety needs is has been detected by Abraham Maslow as the second important needs of human life in order to get a protections or have a security in life. And the third important aspect in Maslow hierarchy needs is social needs. Social needs also is an important needs in organization, in individuals to get or to improve their motivation. So that is referred to the affections or love, conversations that they have between the individuals or the friendship. So this is the third important needs in Maslow hierarchy. And the fourth important individual or human needs is the esteem needs. So this is usually related to the psychological aspect of human, for example, self-respect, recognitions, and gain respect from the others. And the highest hierarchy needs in human needs by Maslow theory is self-actualization needs. So this is actually the highest individual needs, where this will create or will make individual achieve their satisfactions towards their life. So that is the Maslow hierarchy model. This pyramid hierarchy model by Maslow can be applied both in generally in individual life and also in organization. So if you can see here in Maslow hierarchy pyramid model, in the left side, all right, in the left side is a refer such as a food, water, security, affection, self-respect, growth, and creativity. So this is a refer to the psychological needs in human or in individual life. But if you see in the right side of the pyramid hierarchy model, so it's usually referred to the specific needs in organizations. For example, if you see in the first basic psychological needs here, so in organization actually maybe to achieve the psychological needs among workers in workplace, so the employers or the organization can provide appropriate facilities, or maybe provide the cafeteria, the good payment or reasonable payment to the employees. And in terms of safety in workplace, so the organizations can provide the job security and provide the safe working conditions, all right? And in terms of social needs in organizations, maybe the organization can create a good relationship or good teamwork between the workers in workplace. And in terms of esteem, if you can see here, the organizations can provide the job position, the prestige or the status towards the employees in workplace. And the most highest self needs is self-actualizations. And based on Maslow, if the employees want to achieve the self-actualization, he or she actually needs to achieve all these four needs first. That is the physiology, safety, social, and esteem, to achieve the self-actualizations. So the self-actualization is usually referred to the challenging job conditions or the achievement or other advancement in organization. This is the example of how the employees can apply the Maslow hierarchy needs in organization. For example, maybe provide the salary, the bonus, provide the either equipment or tools in organizations. All right, so all these aspects is usually have been focused in organizations in order to achieve the employees' needs. Okay, so now I will share with all of you a video that has been created by Consulting Solutions about how Maslow hierarchy of needs model or theory has been applied in organization.
This video will help you to improve employee motivation using Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. Psychologist Abraham Maslow developed the hierarchy of needs theory. This theory explains that everyone is motivated to satisfy 5 basic needs. These needs are arranged in a hierarchy. We satisfy the lowest needs first. As each need is met, we satisfy the next level need until we have met all 5 needs. So what are these 5 needs? The 5 needs are physiological needs, security needs, belongingness needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. So how does this hierarchy exist in the workplace? In Maslow's hierarchy, our most basic need is physiological. We have to survive. We are concerned about our salary and stable employment. Once this need is met, we are concerned about our security. We want a stable work environment. We want good benefits, a safe work environment. Worker safety is important. Once our security needs are met, we turn our attention to belongingness needs or social concerns. We want to work with good peers, a good boss. The team becomes our concern, our issue. Once our belongingness needs are met, we turn our attention to esteem needs. We want to be respected and recognized for the value we bring to the workplace. Perks, job titles, other issues, and other status concerns become important to us here. Finally, once our esteem needs are met, our final need is at the self-actualization level. We are concerned about achievement. We value autonomy, being a subject matter expert, doing challenging work, having opportunity to grow. As these needs are met, we are satisfied and motivated in the workplace. Our first concern as a worker is our survival or our physiological needs. Our second concern is our security in the workplace. We want a stable work environment. Our third need is belongingness. These are our social needs. It's about the people with whom we spend most of our lives. Our fourth workplace need is esteem. It's about social acceptance. Our final workplace need is self-actualization. It's about being all that we can be. So how can you apply Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory to the workplace? Here's what you can do. Motivation begins with knowing your people. So take time to learn more about each of your employees. If you listen, observe, and ask them, they'll tell you what is important to them. Once you have this information, use it to identify your employees' most pressing needs. Which of the 5 levels in Maslow's hierarchy are they operating at? Once you have that information, match your rewards, leadership, and communication style to each employee's most pressing need. Remember, give your employees what is important to them, not what is important to you.
Right, so that is how we are going to use or to apply the Maslow hierarchy needs theory in organizations. So let's see the other theories. That is Locke's goal theory. So Locke's goal theory is developed by Edwin Locke in early 1960. So this theory states that goal setting is linked to the task performance. So it states that specific and challenging goals, along with appropriate feedbacks, contribute to the higher and better task performance. So in general, goal setting theory is a technique that is used to raise incentive for employees to complete work quickly and efficiently. So goal setting leads to better performance by increasing motivation and effort, but also through increasing and improving the feedback quality. So basically, in Locke goal setting theory, it focuses on the technique to use to raise the incentive so that the employees will work efficiently through the appropriate techniques that have been applied in organization. In Locke goal setting theory, it focuses on these 5 important aspects. That is the clarity, the challenge, the commitment, feedback, and task complexity. So now I will share with all of you one of the video by Program Management about the 5 aspects in Locke goal setting theory and how to apply these 5 aspects in organization.
Hello and welcome to today's lesson where we're looking at Locke's goal setting theory of motivation. Now, this theory is a great framework to use when setting goals for yourself or for your team. The theory is based on research showing that with the right goals you can increase both productivity and motivation. Now, Locke and Latham, the 2 guys who developed the theory, were able to demonstrate that when you set specific and challenging goals and you receive regular feedback on your progress, then your productivity and your motivation will increase. Now, this applies whether your job is highly complex or low in complexity. So whatever your job right now or whatever your team do, then this theory can help improve productivity and motivation. Now, as well as showing the types of goals that can increase motivation, their research also showed how not to set goals. They found that setting unspecific or vague goals failed to increase motivation. Now, that might seem really obvious to you that setting vague goals like this won't increase motivation or performance. But the thing to understand here is that the first person to realize and prove this was Locke. So why does goal setting increase productivity? Well, there's many reasons. So number 1, goals keep you focused on what's important. So when you get sidetracked, you quickly realize that the distraction isn't moving you towards your goals. 2, goals make you more persistent. Now, it's natural to have days where you're super motivated and other days where things aren't going so well. So having goals that you're committed to can give you the determination to push through the difficult times. And thirdly, goals help you rise to the challenge. If you're committed to achieving them, then stretch goals can help you to achieve more than you really ever thought possible. So according to goal setting theory, to be motivating and increase productivity, goals need to have the following 5 characteristics: clarity, challenge, commitment, feedback, and task complexity. Now let's examine each of these in turn. Firstly, clarity. To be motivating, goals need to be clear. When a goal is clear, it's easy to understand exactly what you need to achieve. It's not open to debate or interpretation. Now, conversely, when a goal is vague and imprecise, it's difficult to know if you've ever achieved it. So which do you think is a better goal? Increase customer satisfaction by 15%, or do your best to increase customer satisfaction? It's the first one, increase satisfaction by 15%, because it's more precise. Now, there are a number of steps you can use to help you set clear goals. And the first is to use SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And there are many videos on YouTube or articles on the internet you can Google to find out more about SMART goals. The second thing you can do is you can ensure you understand exactly how you know that you will have achieved your goal. And the final thing you can do is you can ensure you have a metric you can use to track your progress towards your goal. Now, the second factor is challenge, and to be motivating, goals need to be challenging, but not too challenging. Now, a goal that's too easy to achieve won't motivate you. It won't cause you to up your game and increase your performance. And similarly, a goal that you perceive as way beyond your current capability won't motivate you either. It might actually demotivate you. Now, for a goal to motivate, it must hit the sweet spot between challenging you but not over challenging you, is what we're trying to say. So for example, too easy might be increase customer conversion rate from the present benchmark, but too challenging might be increase customer conversion rate by 700%, but just right might just be increase the customer conversion rate by 10%. So how do we set challenging goals? Well, firstly, ask yourself honestly if your goal is too easy, too challenging, or just right. And secondly, think about what scenarios might arise to slow down your progress towards your goal. Plan ahead. So you could perform some scenario planning to determine how you're going to push through these challenges if they arise. Now, 3, we have commitment. For a goal to be motivating, you must be committed to it. Likewise, if you're setting goals for others, you need to ensure that they are bought into those goals. So as an example of no commitment, you simply decide in a meeting with your boss what your team's targets will be, and then dictate those to your team. Your team are not going to be committed in that example. As an example of commitment, you work with your team to determine together what the targets should be and how you can hit them. If you do that, you'll get the buy-in of your team. So how do you gain commitment? Well, 1, agree that targets are realistic and sensible with each member of your team, and ask them explicitly if they buy into each goal. Now, if any rewards are associated with hitting targets, ensure that they are wanted, desirable, and the process of deciding who gets what is transparent. And finally, keep yourself on track by visualizing what it will mean to you to hit your targets. How will your life be different if you hit the targets? How might your career be different if you hit your targets? Number 4, we have feedback. In order for a goal to continue to motivate you as you work towards it, you must receive feedback. Now, for feedback to be effective, there must be a goal. Feedback must be received regularly, and both positive and negative feedback should be welcomed. Now, it's worth knowing that if you're giving someone negative feedback, then make sure you do so in a constructive way. So, an example of good feedback is you set your team members some goals and you organize a weekly check-in to monitor their progress. A bad way to give feedback would be to set the team members goals and then forget all about it until their end of year performance review whenever that is. So how should you give and receive feedback? Well, one way is to schedule a weekly check-in to monitor progress. You could use an app such as Strides or a spreadsheet to track progress. Or you can follow, there's a link below this video that you can follow, which leads to an article which will teach you all about how to give and receive effective feedback. So finally, we come to task complexity. Now, in order for a goal to be motivating, it must not be too complex or too complicated. Highly complicated goals can be overwhelming and even demotivating. So for example, good target setting might be break down complex targets into sub-targets so they're easy to understand, but a bad way of doing things is to simply set a complicated target and expect your team member to just get on with it. So how should you handle complex goals? Well, obviously break them down into sub-targets. And secondly, be aware that if your team member feels overwhelmed by a target, it might just be too complex. And if that's the case, consider reassessing the target and trying to break it down. So in summary, the key takeaway from the work of Locke in his goal setting theory is that goal setting, when done correctly, can be a powerful tool for boosting motivation and productivity. And that applies both when you're setting personal goals for yourself and when you're setting goals for your team. Now, Locke identified 5 principles to follow when goal setting, and these are that goals should be clear, challenging but not too challenging, explicitly committed to, involve regular feedback, and as uncomplicated as possible. Now, by using Locke's goal setting theory, you can keep your team and yourself motivated and productive. So that's it for this lesson. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
So what we can see in this sharing video about Locke goal setting model. So when we want to apply this Locke goal setting model in organization, we need to follow these 5 principles. So the first one is we must make sure that the goal must be clear. For example, as the video share, that we can refer to the SMART goals, for example. And we must also ensure that the goal can be tracked, the progress of the goals. So the goal must be clear. And the second one is a refer to the challenge, where we also must set the challenging goals, but not too challenging. So as these challenge conditions or these challenge goals also can help us or motivate us to achieve our goals. And the third important aspect in Locke goal setting model is we need to have a good commitment towards our goals. And the fourth important part is the feedback. Right? Because for the goals to motivate you as you work for the goals, so you must receive feedbacks, either in terms of positive or negative feedbacks. And we must also allow the regular feedback. And the fifth is the task complexity. So that is a refer to how you handle the complexity, so you can ensure that you can achieve the goals. All right. So if the supervisor or the managers or the organization choose to use this Locke goal setting model, so they must refer to these 5 aspects in order to improve the employees and organization motivations towards work. All right, the other type of motivation theory that can be applied in organizations is Skinner's reinforcement theory. So reinforcement theory is actually has been introduced by B.F. Skinner in early 1981. And the reinforcement theory of motivations is usually focused on the internal state of individual. So it focuses on what happens to an individual when he or she takes the actions. So according to the Skinner, the external environment of the organization must be designed effectively and positively so as to motivate the employee. So this theory is a strong tool to analyzing the controlling mechanism for individuals' behavior. So basically in Skinner's reinforcement theory, it focuses on how to control the employees' behavior in workplace. So there are four methods that can be used to control the employee's behavior. So it is referred to positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and the punishment or the extensions. So the overall focus of this reinforcement theory is focused on how an individual will learn the behavior so that they can improve their motivations or they can gain the good motivations toward works. So this is the Skinner reinforcement model between the stimulus and the forces and how the employees will act based on the stimulus or the forces that have been driven to them. So I will provide here the sharing video by Khan Academy. So it will show us on how to apply the reinforcement theory in organization.
So in the previous videos, we talked about classical conditioning. And what classical conditioning basically involves is the pairing of stimuli and the association that results between the two. So a behavior that would normally be the result of one stimulus becomes the result of another one because of that association that's created. Now obviously classical conditioning is a little more complicated than that, but that's basically what it boils down to. In this video, I want to talk about a concept called operant conditioning. And what operant conditioning basically focuses on is the relationship between behavior and their consequences, and how those consequences in turn influence the behavior. So I'm going to write here, behaviors have consequences. And in terms of operant conditioning, there are two main types of consequences. You have reinforcement and punishment. And when it comes to reinforcement and punishment, there are two types: positive and negative. And the same goes for punishment. There are two types: positive and negative. So we're going to go over each one of these in the context of an example. And we're going to use a goal behavior or a target behavior to help solidify this example. So I'm going to say the goal behavior for this is safe driving. Safe driving. So we see these two types of consequences: reinforcement and punishment. What reinforcement means is it's going to increase the tendency that the goal behavior will occur again. And you can do that through positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. When you see the word positive in this context, it means something is being added. And something is being added in positive reinforcement to increase the tendency that the behavior will occur again. negative reinforcement means something's being taken away in an effort to increase the tendency that the goal behavior will occur again. So for positive reinforcement, since we're adding something, let's say if someone's a safe driver and they're following all the rules, they're rewarded with a gas gift card. Free gas, sounds good to me. So I'll write gas. A gas gift card is being presented in an effort to increase the tendency that the safe driving behavior will occur again. Now, negative reinforcement means you're going to take something away in order to increase the tendency that the safe behavior will occur again. So, one really common example is when you get into your car, before you put your seatbelt on, here's a seatbelt, sometimes you'll hear a loud buzzing sound. It's very annoying. That buzzer just keeps going until you perform the behavior of putting on your seatbelt. And performing the behavior of putting on your seatbelt takes away the sound of the buzzer. So that taking away of the sound of the buzzer is the negative of negative reinforcement. And it's negative reinforcement because you're taking something away, that's the buzzing sound, in an effort to increase the behavior that safe driving will occur again. Punishment, on the other hand, means it will decrease the tendency that a behavior will occur again. So if we're going to use the example of safe driving, we'd want to punish behaviors that are unsafe. So positive punishment means something's being added in an effort to decrease the tendency that a behavior will occur again. So let's think of an unsafe behavior in terms of driving. One of those examples could be speeding. And what happens when you speed? Sometimes when you get caught speeding, you'll receive a speeding ticket. So if you get caught speeding, a police officer will present a ticket to you. So something's being added here, as being the ticket, in an effort to decrease the tendency that that unsafe behavior will occur again. So that's why people get speeding tickets. On the other hand, negative punishment means something's being taken away in an effort to decrease the chance that a behavior will occur again. So if you want to decrease an unsafe driving by taking something away, one extreme example is sometimes when people consistently break the law and they show that they're not safe drivers, courts will take their license away. And by taking away their license, they're decreasing the chance that they can perform more unsafe driving. So these are the 4 types of consequences. You have positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. And one last thing I want to illustrate here is that all of these have a reciprocal relationship. All of these consequences influence and shape the behavior. And that's what makes operant conditioning unique. It's this relationship, this reciprocal relationship between behavior and consequences, and how these behaviors are all influenced by their consequences, and these consequences will influence the behavior. So these are the different types of reinforcement and punishment.
All right, so the other theories of motivation that could be applied in organizations is Adam equity theory. So equity theory is actually has been proposed by John Stacy Adam in early 1963. So basically in this equity theory, it focuses on the equity or the equilibrium between the output and input. So the employees must achieve the equity in their output or input at workplace. And the consequences by not achieving the equity or the consequences of the inequity at workplace, either the output is greater than the input or the input is greater than the output, so it will lead to the aspects of feelings of anger or maybe feelings of guilt. So that is why the equity theory states that the input and output must be equal in order to avoid the negative inequity or positive inequity, which will lead to the feelings of guilt or feelings of anger. This is also the same model as I showed you in the previous slides. So this is the examples for the conditions where the equity is achieved. So when the equity is achieved, the workers contributes more inputs, but in the same time, he or she will get the more outputs than the reference. The reference means when the employees try to refer what he or she got at that time towards the other, she or he will compare himself or herself with another employees at workplace. So it is referred to how the employees will compare what he or she got with the other workers got in the workplace. So that is why the equity is important to make sure that the employees will not feel guilty if, for example, he or she get less input but more output. So he or she will feel guilty because she or he performed maybe 50%, but the outcomes or the rewards that he or she gain is more than what he or she performed. So it will create the feelings of guilty in employees. Or maybe when the employees are compared to the other workers and he or she realize that what he or she have performed and he or she not got the reasonable outcome as what he or she performed at the time compared to the other workers. So he will feel anger or maybe feel disappointed based on these situations. So that is the situation where the inequity happen. So let's see in this model, for example, the equity will achieve when the outcome inputs is equal to the outcomes or outputs. So this is the situations where the employees feel that what he or she got is equal to what he or she get. All right, and underpayment equity is the inequity occurs when the outcomes of the referent is more or greater than the outcomes or input of the employees. When they compare he or himself with the other employees or the other reference, they realize that they get less than the other workers or the other referent. So this is where the employees contribute more inputs but get the same output as reference. All right, this is where the situation that when the employees feel that they put more effort on it, but they only get the same as the other employees got. Although even though that the employees is not perform more like what the he or she perform. Right? And this overpayment equity is when the outputs when the outcomes of the inputs of the reference is less than the output or the inputs of the employees. So this situation is when the employees feel that they get the same inputs but get the more outputs than the reference. What are the consequences will achieve when the employees receive inequity? So when the employees feel that they are in the inequity situation in workplace, they usually will change the input or maybe change the outcomes. And maybe in other situations, the employees will change their self-perceptions or change their perception towards others. And maybe in most worst scenario, the employees may quit the job. So what we can see in Adam equity theory, it refers to the importance of equity between person and the reference, or between the employee and the other workplace. So the equity must be achieved. All right. So here I also provide to you a sharing video by Business Council Consulting Solutions about Adam equity theory and how to apply this equity theory in workplace.
This video will show you how to use Adam's equity theory to improve employee motivation. Psychologist John Adams developed the equity theory. This theory explains that employees judge the fairness of a leader based on social comparisons. Employees judge whether a boss is fair based on how the boss treats other employees that are like them. So, how do employees make these comparisons? An employee will compare what she or he gives to the organization to the rewards that organizational leadership gives back to him or her. To do this, the employee will ask a basic question. Based on what I give to this organization, am I getting the same rewards as my peers? Rewards include the following. Of course, there's pay, but there's also autonomy, involvement, benefits, workplace flexibility, and perks. In each of these areas, the employee is evaluating whether or not the rewards they receive are equitable with their peers. But fairness is subjective, so why should you care? While fairness is subjective, inequities in the workplace, whether they are perceived or real, harm employee motivation. When inequities exist, human behavior is to seek to make the situation equitable. Whatever behavior an employee displays is justifiable in his or her mind. From the employee's perspective, his or her behavior is a response to unfair treatment. So how does this transfer to the workplace? employee might choose to decrease inputs. They would give less time, do less work. Or they might push for more output from the company. They demand more pay or authority. They might go into survival mode. You'd find them just doing their job and little more. Maybe they become resistant and you start to see them acting out on other issues. Maybe they might become overly competitive and focus on reducing the outputs of others. Or they might just quit. At any rate, you might lose a few bad employees, but where inequity is concerned, you'll likely also lose some very good employees. Here's what you can do. First, make it a practice to operate in good faith. Don't show favoritism. Practice being clear and consistent, even with those employees who try your patience. 2. Don't ignore employee concerns about unfairness. Acknowledge and fix what you can. Explain what you cannot fix and why you cannot fix it. And re-educate employees on fairness issues as needed. And 3, lead change efforts thoughtfully. Communicate the need for change. Involve employees in the change effort. And when you involve them, take their suggestions seriously. All of these can go a long way to reducing employees' concerns about inequities in the workplace.
So that is the equity theory that is focused on the fairness in workplace. So the other motivation theory in workplace is expectancy theory. So expectancy theory is proposed by Victor Bloom in 1964. So what are the rooms expectancy theory focus on? So the expectancy theory states that employees' motivation is an outcome of how much an individual wants a reward, the assessment that the effort will lead to expected performance, and the belief that the performance will lead to rewards. So there are actually 3 main aspects in expectancy theory that need to be focused on. The first one is the effort, and the second one is the performance, and the third one is the outcomes. Basically, in this theory, it's emphasized on the expectations and perceptions towards what employees receive or gained in the workplace. So I will share with all of you one of the videos on how to apply this expectancy theory in organization.
Process-based perspectives are concerned with how motivation occurs, rather than attempting to identify specific motivational stimuli such as pay or recognition. Process perspectives focus on why people choose certain behavioral options to satisfy their needs and how they evaluate their satisfaction after they've attained those goals. Let's take a look at the expectancy theory of motivation. Expectancy theory suggests that people are motivated by how much they want something and the likelihood they perceive of getting it. Expectancy theory is a more encompassing model of motivation than equity theory. Over the years since its original formulation, the theory's scope and complexity have continued to grow. Victor Vroom is generally credited with first applying the theory of motivation to the workplace. The theory attempts to determine how individuals choose among alternative behaviors. The basic premise of expectancy theory is that motivation depends on how much we want something and how likely we are to get it. This figure summarizes the basic expectancy model. The model's general components are effort, the result of motivated behavior, performance, and outcomes. Expectancy theory emphasizes the linkages among these elements, which are described in terms of expectancies, instrumentalities, and valences. Effort to performance expectancy is a person's perception of the probability that effort will lead to successful performance. Performance to outcome instrumentality is a person's perception of the probability that performance will lead to certain other outcomes. An outcome is anything that might potentially result from performance. High performance conceivably might produce such outcomes as a pay raise, a promotion, recognition from the boss, fatigue, stress, less time to rest, among others. The valence of the outcome is the relative attractiveness or unattractiveness, the value of the outcome to the person. Pay raises, promotions, and recognition might all have positive valences, whereas fatigue, stress, and less time and rest might have negative valence. The strength of outcome valences varies from person to person. Work-related stress may be a significant negative factor for one person, but only a slight annoyance to another. The basic expectancy framework suggests that 3 conditions must be met before motivated behavior occurs. First, the effort to performance expectancy must be well above 0. That is, the worker must reasonably expect that exerting effort will produce high levels of performance. Second, the performance to outcome instrumentalities must be well above 0. In other words, the person must believe that performance will realistically result in valued outcomes. Third, the sum of all the valences for the potential outcomes relevant to the person must be positive. One or more valences may be negative as long as the positives outweigh the negatives. Expectancy theory is so complicated that researchers have found it to be quite difficult to test. In particular, the measures of various paths of the model may lack validity, and the procedures for investigating relationships among the variables have been less scientific than researchers would like. Moreover, people are seldom as rational and objective in choosing behaviors as expectancy theory implies. Still, the logic of the model, combined with the consistent, albeit modest, research support for it, suggests that the theory has much to offer. Because expectancy theory is so complex, it's difficult to apply directly in the workplace. A manager would need to figure out what the rewards each employee wants and how valuable those rewards are to each person, measure the various expectancies, and finally adjust the relationships to create motivation.
All right. So based on the video sharing, we can see that the expectancy model is focused on these 3 aspects. That is the first one, effort and performance and outcomes, and how effort's relationship with performance and performance relationship with outcomes is the 3 important aspects to reach the motivation among employees. So in the first place is the relationship between effort and performance, where in this process of relationship between effort and performance, the employees is usually expect that his or her effort will lead to the good performance. And in this second process or relationship that is between performance and outcomes is where the employees expected that their good performance will lead to their specific outcomes or the desired outcomes. And the relationship between outcomes and the motivations among employees will focus on the expectation of the employees about the outcomes that they got at that time. And for example, the promotion, for example, or recognitions as an outcome. So how these promotion and recognitions that the employees achieve at that times will increase or improve his or her motivations to work. So basically in the expectancy model, the process or relationship between the effort, performance, and outcome is important in order to achieve the employees' motivations. However, as discussed in the sharing video, the expectancy model sometimes is quite difficult to apply in organization because the employers or the managers need to recognize what are the specific rewards that can be used or that can make the employees or that can match with the employee's expectation based on his effort and performance in order to gain the aspect of motivation in workplace. All right. Apart from the theory or the model that could be applied in organization in order to improve the employees and organizations motivations, there are also another types of motivation that can be applied, that is incentive. So what is incentive? So incentive is an act or a promise for greater actions. So it can be referred to the tools or the aspect that can help to increase the employees' motivation in workplace. So incentives are something which are given in addition to the salary. So it means the additional remunerations or additional benefits to an employee and recognitions of his or her achievement towards work. So incentive will provide a mechanism or will provide a good spirit or enthusiasm in the employees, all right, for a better performance. So therefore, incentive is where we hope that it can help to motivate employees as a whole. So in incentive, usually and in most organizations, all right, the monetary incentive is one of the important incentive that can motivate employees to perform better in their work. And there are also another types of incentives that is also referred to non-monetary incentive. So this is the two types of the incentive in workplace to motivate the employees or that can be motivated employees. So the first one is the monetary incentive. So what is monetary incentive? So monetary incentive is the incentive which will satisfy the employees by providing them rewards that is in terms of money. So money has been recognized as an important source to satisfy the employees' needs. Money is also helpful to satisfy the social needs by processing any various material items. And also money is not only satisfy the psychological needs, but also the security and the social needs. So in many organizations, the variety of wage plans and bonus schemes are introduced to motivate and to stimulate the employees to work. So that is the monetary incentive. So what is the non-monetary incentive? So non-monetary incentive is where the certain non-financial incentive refer to the satisfactions of employees' ego. So basically, the non-financial incentive is the incentive that will satisfy the ego and self-actualization needs of employees. So the incentive is usually cannot be measured in terms of money, because this is referred to the non-financial incentive. So basically, there are also several types of non-monetary incentive that could be used or applied in organizations apart from the monetary incentive. So the first one is the first one of the non-monetary incentive is the security of service. So what is the security of service? So the security of service is where the job security is seen as an incentive that will provide the great motivation to employees. So in this situation is when or where the employee will put maximum effort to achieve the objective of the organizations, because the employees feel that they have been provided with a good job security, so he or she will put the maximum effort to achieve the objective of the organizations. And this also will help this also helps the process of motivation, since he is very far away from the mental tensions, because he or she don't have to think about their job security, so he or she can give his best to the organization. And the second types of the non-monetary incentive that could be applied and used in organization is the praise or the recognition incentive. So the praise or recognition incentive is also another non-financial incentive that will satisfy the ego needs of the employees. And sometimes in some cases, the praise becomes more effective than any other incentive, because the employees will respond more to the praise and try to give the best of their abilities, because they feel they are appreciated or valued by the praise that they got. So they will try to give their best. So this is the condition where the motivation aspect is occurs in employees when they gain the praise or recognition from the organization. And the third aspect of non-monetary incentive is also referred to the job enrichments. So job enrichment is also another non-monetary incentive in which the job of a worker can be enriched. All right. For example, maybe so for example, maybe we can increasing the content and nature of the work. So the job enrichment is also can help to gain the motivations in individual or employees towards their work. And the other non-monetary incentive is referred to the suggestion scheme. So suggestion scheme is the process where the organizations look forward to taking the suggestions or inviting the suggestion from the employees. So by allow the employees to give their suggestions, so it will help to increase spirit of the participations among employees. For example, let's say if the employees have published various articles and have written a various article, and the organization has published the articles in magazines. So this will increase the employees' motivation because they feel that they are important and value this on what the organization has done to them. So this also will help to increase or improve the employees and organizations growth. And the other part is refer to the promotion opportunities. So this non-monetary incentive is also be known as the most powerful incentive to gain the employees' motivations by promote them to the good ones or promote their work. For example, maybe provide promotion to another position or another workplace that has been good enough to them. So why the incentive is important in order to improve the or to gain the motivations in workplace? Because it can help to increase the productivity and it also will drive a stimulus towards work and enhance the commitments towards work. And also the importance of incentive is proven psychologically will satisfy the employees satisfactions that will lead to job satisfactions, and it also can help to shape the behavior of the employees toward work. So based on this the incentive that have been provided to the employees, the most important part is it will increase the maximum of the employees' capability, and the employees also can perform maximum to the maximum in their work. So it can give the both win-win situation to the employees and organization, as it not only can create or increase the employees' motivation, but can create the positive motivations or the positive environment in workplace that also will indirectly help to increase the growth or achievement of the organizations. So there are also types of incentive. Usually we know that the positive incentive is very well known and widely has been used in organizations, and it refers to the positive aspects to fulfill the needs and the wants. So positive incentive is generally have an optimistic attitude, and they are generally given to satisfy the psychological requirement of employees. For example, the promotion, the praise, the recognition, the perks, and allowance. So this positive incentive is usually we already know, and most of us knows about this positive incentive. But what is about the negative incentive? All right, negative incentive is actually when the positive incentive is not success, so we will use the negative incentive. So the purpose of the negative incentive is usually to correct the mistakes right, to correct the employee's mistake. So the purpose is to rectify the mistakes in order to get the effective results. So negative incentive is usually will be applied when the positive incentive does not work. Right, so it will provide a psychological setback or reverse psychology to the employees. For example, the demotion, the fines, penalties, and transfer. So this negative incentive is actually has been used to correct the mistake that have been done by the employees. And if the positive incentive is not work, so the psychological setback, or in other words, we say that the reverse psychology is needs here, which refer to the negative incentive that will help the employees to correct their mistakes, right? So this is also the negative incentive. But usually in motivation aspect, all right, the most organization will focus on positive incentive rather than negative incentive in order to motivate the staff. But it depends on the situation. If the positive incentive is not work, maybe the negative one is needed in order to maintain or improve the motivational workplace conditions. So, what are the supervisor roles in order to motivate staff? So first, supervisor needs to regularly or usually praise or compliment the employees. So when the employees feel that they are appreciated or they are valued when the organization or the supervisor has praised them, so indirectly or psychologically the employees will have a high enthusiasm or spirit towards their work. So this is the process of this is where the process of the motivations occurs by using the praise or compliment. And the second one is maybe the supervisor can encourage the autonomy. So what is the autonomy actually? So autonomy is referred to having a freedom in thoughts and actions. So by giving a trust and make the employees chances to handle the situations or the work tasks in organizations, so it can lead also to the motivated employees in workplace. It will help to increase the motivation among employees. So please don't use or don't be a micro manager, but try to be a good leader in order to encourage the autonomy or encourage the freedoms in thoughts and actions among employees. So the employees will having a good perceptions, will having or will enjoy their work in workplace. And the other is maybe the supervisor also need to treat the employees with respect, because respect is also the important aspect that will increase the motivations among employees. And also the supervisor also must allow the honest criticism or complaints among the employees. So this will help the employees to feel that their opinions or their complaints is also important in workplace. So they will feel that they are also a part of important person in organization. So this will help to increase or improve the employees' motivation towards work. And supervisor also must ensure a healthy work-life balance. So in these situations, we can see that the employees must not, for example, maybe must not demand the overtime every week, for example. So by not demand the overtime to employees in every week, it will let your employees take time off if they have good reasons. So that means it will let the employees to have a good work-life balance, right? So this will maintain the employees' motivations towards work. And the other aspect that the supervisor needs to do to motivate the staff is be fair. So it is very well known that be fair is an important aspect in workplace. So it can help to maintain the motivations or the positive environment or the positive motivation environment in workplace. For example, maybe please try not to have favorite employees or maybe have a double standards in organizations. All right. So, for example, if the employees don't deserve to get the perks, then don't give them the perks. So the supervisor must be fair in order to motivate their all employees. And the last one is pay them more. So the pay, this is actually the most powerful tools to motivate staff when the organization pay them more. Right. So money is actually the most effective motivator at all. So either maybe that it is not possible to increase salaries all the time, but if you really need to raise the motivation or the moral in workers, so the money are the best strategy. All right. So, as we discussed in this chapter about the concept of motivations, the importance of motivation in workplace, and all the theories that is the Maslow hierarchy needs theories, the goal setting theories, the equity theories, the expectancy theories, and also the reinforcement theory. So we can see that all these aspects is important to in the process to maintain and to increase the motivation among employees. And we also can see that the incentive is also one of the powerful tools in order to increase the motivation among staff. So Bob Nelson said that an employee's motivation is a direct result of the sum of interactions with his or her manager. So what is that mean? So it is meant as a supervisor, we are also a leader towards our staff. So we first must motivate ourselves, and after that we can create or shape the motivation in workplace by applying or conducting the suitable motivation model. And also we can provide the incentive to motivate the staff. So by doing this, it will increase both the employees and organizations' productivity or growth. Okay, so that is the topic of motivations in staff supervisions for today. If you have any questions or opinions regarding this topic, please feel free to ask me. So that's all for now and for today's lesson. Thank you for watching these lectures. Good luck, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.